The Mastering Local Marketing podcast helps local small business owners like you understand what it takes to successfully market your business and drive new customers through your doors. We provide actionable insights, interview leading experts and business owners in various industries, as well as provide tips and tricks we've uncovered over the last 25 years in the field. Whether you're starting your business or you've been at it for decades, let us provide you with the education and resources you need to grow your customer base. It's time to start mastering your local marketing. Here's your host, Matt Hanson.
Welcome. This is the Mastering Local Marketing podcast, and I am Matt Hanson. I'm here with my co-host, Jim Dedelow. How are you, Jim?
Doing all right, man. I'm an honor to be here. This is, people don't know this, but we're with the digital marketing guru right here, and I'm just glad to go along for the ride.
Love it. So one of the things with local marketing is I hear this constantly from small businesses, right? We don't know what to do. And I've had the privilege of working with Fortune 500 companies. I've had the privilege of working with local mom and pops. And quite honestly, there's just no tools out there for these local companies to really understand what they need to do when it comes to marketing. And It for 25 years, I've gone through this process. I've had the conversations. Everyone always asks me, what do I need to do? I don't know. I don't know the best way to go about this. And many times I just say we just need to sit down and have a simple conversation. And that's what kind of led us to here today is, how do we provide the insights, the ideas that you need, and to simplify things, because 9 times out of 10, people make things too difficult.
I agree entirely with Matt. And just to give a little background, Matt Hanson is a professor or assistant professor? I forget.
I am a clinical associate professor at the university.
Yeah, Purdue Northwest, and we're on the campus right now. And Matt teaches over there and runs various programs, and has his own business on the side. And I don't know why he's still in academia when you see what he's capable of. I own this media here, and I got my MBA at kind of a longer in the tooth time in my life, but I took his classes in digital marketing, and it has completely changed my JED TV and WJOB and all of our digital properties that we have. And pretty much it's just from following what he presents. So this is I think we're going to do an overview today, but over time you're going to go into some details that really can help your local business. We have 100 clients, so I give some of them these tips to people, but I think over time you guys will find some of this information very valuable. How's that for an intro about you and the humble Matt Hanson?
That works. Yeah. So, like I said, I've been in marketing for over 25 years, and quite honestly, everyone thinks marketing is hard. And when I sit down and I start to have these conversations with people, it's let's simplify. Let's have a real conversation. Let's start to understand some of the things. So it kind of brings us to our first podcast today, and in kind of the title of what we're looking at, we're talking about illusions that are out there, right? So it's the things that people believe, things that they've read. They make things too hard. They spend way too much time, right? So if you're a local business owner, the number one thing you don't have is time, right? So you're running a business, you're doing the financial side, the accounting side, you're out there trying to market, you're trying to, stock shelves, you're trying to, order food for the restaurant, whatever it may be, right? And there's just no time. So what we try to do is we try to tell everyone, you need to automate, you need to, you really just need to strip away the things that are going to take way too much time to do and use the things that actually work, right? So less time, things that work, and, let's give you that game plan of where we need to go.
In the beginning, though, you're talking about illusions, but I think, and we've talked about this in your classes and other spots, and from our own experience, a lot of times it comes down to the smaller local company just being overwhelmed by everything, especially with the onset of AI, which we will bring in over this podcast. But before you get to any of these illusions, what do you say to that local marketing person that's talking to you and that they're just as nervous? I mean, the local business person, I mean, you could just feel their angst talking about marketing and how much money it's going to cost them and what the learning curve is going to be like. What do you tell them about that overwhelming feeling they have?
First off, I tell them to take a deep breath, right? But really it comes down to just let's stop and let's think about a few things, right? And we'll kind of talk about those things as we go through today, but it is really, you cannot be an expert everywhere. Right. And let's focus on one thing or two things that you're really comfortable with. Let's find those things that are valuable to you. Right. Like you said, there's only 24 hours in a day, and you're probably spending 23 and a half of them on your business already, trying to sleep somewhere. I don't know. But it really just comes down to having a game plan, and a simple game plan, not something that is overwhelming. I mean, if you came to me and said, hey, we're going to start an investment fund for startups tomorrow, I wouldn't have the foggiest clue on how to do that. And I feel like a lot of local small business owners are in that way when it comes to marketing, right? So somebody knocks on their door, says, hey, we're going to put you number one on Google, and they believe it, right? Or knocks on their door and says, hey, you need to buy an ad in XYZ magazine or whatever, a billboard or whatever, right? They don't know anything, right? They react to it and think, oh, great, we'll put that out there. But a lot of the conversations that we're going to have are literally about simplifying that process and understanding it and going, okay, well, I've been making these mistakes. How do we now simplify it and start to look at it in a little bit more of a detailed environment and, just make correct decisions instead of just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks.
It's a long game for doing this podcast.
Right, exactly. This is not something that tomorrow, I can say it all today, and tomorrow you're going to walk away and know everything, right? So like, I've been in this, like I said, 25 years, and I'm still learning things today. Right. I'm still having the same conversations I was having with small businesses 20 years ago. And just this week, just my own clients, a couple of them this week, we're driving traffic. We've got real, the ads are out there. We're driving real traffic, and they're not converting on the back end. And what we're saying to them is we have to think about the whole process. Right. We can drive traffic to your website or whatever it may be, but in the real sense of it, we have to understand the mind frame of the customer. And if I drive you over to a website and it doesn't really match what we're out there putting out there in the ad side, they get confused, right? So human beings are very simple. Everyone always says we're very complex. I say we're very simple. When you look at consumer behavior, there's a lot of predictability there.
So you got 5 basic illusions. You want to take an overview and then maybe go back on some of these?
Yeah, sure. So there's 5 illusions that I've kind of outlined here, and I want to spend some time on these, right? So we're going to introduce them today, and we're going to come back in the next few podcasts and kind of dive into them a little bit deeper. But the first illusion is getting out of your circle of influence, and these may not make sense as I go through the 5 real quick, but they'll make sense as we go through this, right? So we have getting out of your circle of influence is our first one. The second one is what I call Jekyll and Hyde of customers, right? It sounds kind of fun, right? The third one is your social is on mute. Our fourth is jack of all trades, master of none. And finally, our fifth is ignoring the $5 party, right? So cool little fun names that we've got to them. They probably don't make sense to you at this point, but we're going to make some sense out of them as we go.
So ultimately, I go through this every day. We sell a lot of ads and streaming video and that kind of stuff. And it is very often when I start talking about CPMs and impressions and that kind of stuff, and I can see the local restaurant owner who has 2 or 3 restaurants or 2 or 3 laundromats or whatever, or even the more regional advertisers. Sometimes it just seems so confusing. We're gonna try to dispel some of the rumors and see what some of these things stand for. And just don't be overwhelmed. That's the number one thing that I want to tell people is that, because I see it every day. They're like, I just don't want to deal with it. One of the things that, and this is one of the illusions, and I'm glad you brought this up because it is the number one that I'm always up against, and that is your first one, getting out of your circle of influence. People have a business. Hey, man, I'm making some money. Everybody knows us. I don't need to tell anybody my story. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I just want you to know we're here with our streaming video and that kind of stuff. And if that ever changes, let us know. And if you happen to be one of those people who stumbles on this podcast, all of a sudden you'll be calling me because that is probably a danger.
Yes.
Correct? And explain why.
Oh man, this is the number one thing that I see all the time, right? So I was actually at an event, a small business event, had about 40 people at it, 40 different business owners a while back. And the conversation that I was having with them is, you don't know me, I don't know you, right? And you hang around with people every day, whether it's friends, family, whoever, right? Your neighbors. If you've talked to those people, they probably know your business, right? So if you own a restaurant or you own a gift shop or a home decor or whatever it may be, they probably know who you are, right? They probably know that you own the shop, the restaurant, whatever it may be, and they probably know where it's at.
Plumber,
right.
Landscaper,
right.
Whatever it might be.
Right. So you have this circle of influence, these people that are around you at all times. And what it does is it creates a false sense of comfort, right? So you assume that all these people that you're surrounded by know who you are, know what your company is, right? And many times what happens is, we start to think, oh, well, everybody knows who we are. Well, it's because you're talking to those people that are around you, right? So it's not, these aren't random people on the street that you're having conversations with. So let me put it into kind of a story format, right? So we were looking at cars. My wife was looking, she always likes to get something that nobody has, right? And she was looking for a car, and one of her cousins worked at Maserati or something like that. And she said, oh, well, I'm going to look at a Maserati. And honestly, I've never really even noticed Maseratis driving around, right? But all of a sudden, and this happens so often, right? All of a sudden you start to see Maseratis everywhere because you've now been trained to see that, right? So think of it in terms of, if you're putting your ad or your message out there to the general public, they will start to see you more often. They'll go, oh yeah, I know, right? It starts to get into their brain. Here's another example. So we worked on a campaign for State Farm, probably, 15 years ago at this point. And, State Farm, we all kind of know, we've heard State Farm, and they've done a strong push over the last few years. But I didn't realize how many State Farm agents there were in an area, right? So we had the conversation about State Farm, and we were talking about insurance and all this other stuff. And but I kid you not, there has to be 10 of them between the university that I work at and where I go home. I noticed, anywhere from like 7 to 10 of them, and I know all of their names at this point. And it was just triggered based on the fact that we were working on a project for State Farm, and now I see them everywhere, right? So I always joke with everyone.
Billboards mainly.
They're everywhere.
And half of them I remember from us covering them in high school athletics. So I don't know if there's a pipeline from high school athletics to college to State Farm, but they're all over these billboards. So what does that do to your mind? So
what we're saying is there's only so many things that we can take into our mind on a daily basis, right? So I had a conversation yesterday, and somebody was talking about sponsoring a hole at a golf course or something like that. And I said, okay, well, who was the sponsor at the last golf outing on hole 4? And they're like, I have no idea. And I said, okay, well, that's a one time. You saw it one time. It's not going to, you're not going to see that over and over and over again. But if you get the awareness out there, if you get out there in front of your customer base and they see you repeatedly, it's funny. I've run campaigns on Meta for literally like $200 for a client for a month, and just ran them for 6 months for a local business. And people will say, I see those people everywhere, right? And it's funny. They start to know who you are, and you're not really spending large dollars, right? that's what it comes down to. It's generating that awareness and getting people to notice you and not doing it one time, right? Like consistency over time. And here's another little fact that I want to throw out there to you, right? So the top brands that are out there, right? So the ones with multi-million dollar ad accounts.
Geico,
right.
State Farm.
Huge, right? They only have roughly between 90 to 95% awareness. Think about that, right? So we all know Geico, we all know State Farm, right? The idea is that no matter how large your budget, you're never going to generate that 100% awareness. I always say there are people locked up in a cave somewhere. I don't know where they are, right? But what I always tell local small businesses, go out there and talk to people that you don't know. Go to a grocery store, go to an event, go to a fair, and just ask people, hey, do you know XYZ company and where it's located? And start to take a tally of that, right? So if you do 20 people or if you do 100 people, you'll get an idea of what your awareness is, right? So if you go out there and you talk to 20 people and, half of them know who you are, you know that 50% awareness in the area. Okay, that's rough numbers, but you get the idea, right? So you go, okay, well, if only 50%, that means that half of the people in this area know who we are. Okay, now I need to go deeper, right? How do I get it to 70%, 80%, 90%? Would be the greatest thing in the world, right? So that's really the hardest part is people think because they're in that circle of influence that they're in, that everyone knows who they are. But we have to break out of that and start to talk to those that aren't in our close circles.
So that's the bridge that we are up against here as basically sellers of digital streaming media spots on our games. And a lot of times, I would say it's way into a majority of the local business owner. They're like, well, they think that everybody knows who we are, and they don't sometimes want other people to know who they are, or they don't want to spend the money to make that happen. And that is, obviously we're doing the podcast for that, but how do you get them to cross that bridge?
It's interesting. Nobody wants to remain small, right? Or nobody wants to remain kind of where they're at. It's human nature that we always want to grow, right? We want to do things better. I mean, we just went through the new year. Everyone has their, I'm going to go out there and lose weight. I'm going to, gain muscle. I'm going to make more money this year, whatever it may be. But when you're talking about local small businesses, they want to grow, right? So they don't want to maintain a small kind of idea, or even if you're successful and you have 1, 2, maybe 5 locations, maybe the idea is to expand even further, right? That comes with new customers, let's be honest, right? And if we don't put that out there, if we don't generate that awareness, you're going to be stuck in that same little, that bubble that we're in, right? And if you're not looking to expand, great. I mean, enjoy your life and all of that. But I'm a marketer at heart, so I'm always grow. And it's very rare that I find somebody that goes, we're comfortable where we're at. It's always, we need to generate more revenue. We need to generate more customers. More people need to know about us. So I would say, if they're feeding that line, secretly they want to grow.
Yeah, well, I understand that entirely. It's just going back to the original discussion is I think people are just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
There has been so much change in the here we are recording this in 2025. There's been so much change in the last 10 years. If you got your nose to the grindstone on your business, a lot of that's happened without your knowledge.
Right.
Another thing that is, you kind of don't always stop your business. I've been pushed to pause and create something recently, and has made me do this here about our business, is that we had to think about who our ideal customer is. Mm-hmm. And the ICP is something you talked about in all of the classes I took from you. And then I'm like, all right, I'm done. I have to go do my business. But when we finally sat down and got maybe big enough or enough cash flow to be able to look back and say, who is our ideal customer profile? I got everybody in a room, and I was doggone surprised at who they thought our customer was. Right. And I got a feeling that happens in a lot of businesses. Right. And so how important is it to designate who your ideal customer is?
Oh, man. Let's take that into illusion number 2, right? So we talked about Jekyll and Hyde of customers. And, everyone knows the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? So that, Mr. Hyde is kind of the bad side. Dr. Jekyll is the good side. And I have seen this over and over and over again when it comes to the customers. And really what I want to talk about here is there are customers that are amazing, right? And we love those customers. And then there are customers that make, I think I had started getting gray hair at 28, right? Those are the customers that they gave me the gray hair at 28. And everyone wants to say everyone is their customer. And that's great. You can have everyone as a customer, but you're going to drive yourself insane. So what I like to tell everyone is we need to understand that there are terrific customers and there are bad customers and there are customers that you just don't want, right? So let me give you some examples, right? So we have, for example, we owned a home decor shop for many years. My mom had run it and she had passed probably about 10, 12 years ago. And it was a great shop and it ran really great. We had a huge customer list. We had mailing addresses, email addresses, and we would send out postcards and we would send out emails and all this other stuff. We did a lot of marketing to those individuals. But what we understood was there out of, let's say you take 100 of those customers, 20 of them are going to be really good customers, right? And you've heard of the Pareto principle, which is 80-20. 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. I have done this over and over and over again. It can be a variation of that in some degree, but the idea really is this, that identify those best customers and then go out and figure out how to duplicate them over and over, right? So, we would send out, when we had the home decor shop, we would send out these postcards, and my mom, is a typical family business where I would say, I don't think you should send them to this neighborhood. It's too far away. Oh no, they're the ideal customer, right? So we would send out, postcards to this neighborhood and this neighborhood, and we would get something like, half hour out, which is way too far. And what we noticed, or what I noticed, because I'm the marketing guy, right? I would literally look at it and go, okay, well, within a 5-minute radius of where we're at, these things are working really well. But when you get to those outlying areas, they're not working at all. You're spending money trying to pull these people in, and it's just not working, right? So we had long conversations about it. But what ends up happening is you've got your best customers that you have to identify, but then you're holding on to those others that are farther away and trying to pull them in. Or maybe you got them to come into the store one time or 2 times and you're trying to pull them back in. There's other ways to look at it as well, right? So there are people that would come in and spend $400 on a piece of furniture, and then there were people that would come in and spend $2 on a little ornament. Great. How many ornaments do you have to sell to get to the $400 piece of furniture, right? So you have to look at it from a variety of different ways. I had another client that was a fitness company, and one of the things that they had thousands and thousands of email customers throughout the nation, and they called them customers, but they weren't necessarily customers. They had email lists, right? And let's say it was, and I don't want to give exact numbers just for anonymity, but let's say it was 50,000 emails that they had, and they had a huge list. We started asking them the question. We said, okay, well, on this list, who are your best customers? So it's these people right here. And the Pareto principle worked out perfectly there. I said, okay, well, how many of these people have not ordered from you in the last year? And then we pulled it. And then I said, the last 2 years, and we pulled it. And I said, okay, you're paying hundreds of dollars to host these emails, and these people have not purchased from you in the last 2 years. They've gone somewhere else, right? So they've broken up with you. I'm sorry to say it, they're not coming back. They've broken up with you. So it's time to break up with them. And it was funny because they didn't want to listen. They're like, they may come back. And I said, listen, you're in fitness. If they haven't been back in 2 years, they're long gone, right? So we watched that list go from let's say 50,000 to they are no longer in existence because that was their primary way of marketing. And they ignored the fact that people were falling off and they weren't replenishing it, right? Customers are funny, right? Like, we have to understand that there are some that are going to take a lot of money to hit, and there are some that are going to take very little money to hit to get into your store. The other thing that I always say is you only have so much time. So do you want to spend hours and hours and hours working with a difficult customer, or do you want to have ideal customers, right? My best customers in any business I've ever owned, I literally get on the phone and I call them. Like, what can I do? How can I help? What are you looking for? And it was great. I mean, you get to know them, you get to know their families, what they're, what are some of the things they're struggling with. You try to help them. And those are the ones that make your business go. So, I mean, when I say Jekyll and Hyde, it literally is figure out who your best customers are and try to duplicate that. Don't hold on to the ones that are drawing time and money, because those are the two biggest factors that are going to sink a business.
That's illusion number 2 that we're going to talk about in these podcasts. Illusion number 3 is maybe it gets more to the heart of the overwhelming part. You got a business, small to medium size, I guess it'd be more of our target right here. And you think, oh my gosh, I have to get to so many hits. I have to have so many friends. I have so many likes. And it doesn't always compute for, the direct number of what you're getting to how many people are going to buy your product.
Right.
Explain why that is.
Yeah, I mean, I hear, we've got to be on social, right? Social. Okay, great. That's fine. But everyone wants to go out there and just post on everything, right? And what I like to say is, your social can end up on mute. And what does that mean? Well, again, let's go back. Time and money are the most valuable things in business. And what you're doing is you're spending countless hours producing content for a Facebook page or an Instagram or, putting videos on TikTok or whatever it may be. And that takes up valuable time, right? So you could be running your business, you could be doing all these other things, but now you're having to produce something, right? You have to shoot the video, you have to go to edit. Maybe you're a genius on Canva, right? I don't know, but like you're doing all of these things and then you're uploading it. And what ends up happening, I see it all the time, is everyone spends all this time putting this content out there, and then they don't look at how it's being received, right? So if you have 2,000 people that are following you out there and you post content every single day, does it really make sense to do it if nobody is interacting with it, right? And I don't want to get into the algorithm and how social and how it all works, but I can tell you, if you're not interacting with something on social, it disappears from your feed, right? So really the idea, I joke about this in my own household, that my wife has her Facebook feed, my father-in-law has his Facebook feed, I have my own Facebook feed, and all the other platforms that we're on, and they're all uniquely different, right? They are all built based on what we are actually interacting with. So if somebody isn't interacting with your post, over time it disappears, right? So I may follow countless pages, but if I never click on anything, if I never like anything, if I never comment anything, it disappears from my feed 100%. So you're putting all of this time and effort into content, and nobody is commenting, nobody is liking it, nobody is loving it, nobody is sharing it, right? And I see this where people have 2,000, 5,000 followers, and they'll have 2 interactions with a post. And I'll tell them, you're wasting your time. You are completely lost in the woods. Nobody is seeing it, right? I've had people that I've talked with where they have full studios in their business to shoot video content, and then when you go to look at their at Instagram, right? Like the people that have liked or commented are all people from internal in that company. It's nobody external. So they're putting all this time and effort into it, and their social is literally on mute. Nobody is seeing it anymore. And that's a whole process to kind of get that, going again. And I mean, it's probably, if you talk about the top 3 things I see, it's everyone wants to put more content out there, but they're ignoring some of the key factors that they really need to understand. And I shake my head sometimes, but we have those conversations. They're hard because they think they're doing well.
We'll go into that in some of the other podcasts. I mean, that is an intriguing moment when you're saying, well, I thought the whole idea is just throw a bunch of money at social media and make a bunch of content. And I'm with you. We have, I think, 40,000 people, and they'll put a promo up and it'll have like 7 likes. And then I look and it's like our people. Then we'll put a little clip of a game, and then all of a sudden you have, thousands and tens of thousands, sometimes views and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, hey, this is pretty. Yeah, but we want people to watch the games. And I'm like, this isn't how we're going to do it, because you're basically muting your social media feed. So it happens. Even people that are kind of in that business just kind of lose their focus. All right, you have. We're going to go through another illusion, and this one I particularly like, and I'm going to let you explain it. It's just jack of all trades, master of none when it applies to local business marketing.
Right. Yeah, so everyone thinks they need to be everywhere, right? And I hear it constantly. They come up to me and they say, well, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Pinterest, we're even on Reddit commenting, we're doing all this stuff. And really what ends up happening is I go, how much time are you spending on that? I'm like, exorbitant amount of time, right? And I said, okay, well, how's the interaction? How's the engagement? Well, I don't know. We've got this many followers on this, and these platforms aren't really working. And I go, why are we doing it? Why are we spending so much time on all of these different things? I mean, are you an expert in any of them? And what I literally sit down with people constantly and say, pick one, just pick one, and start to become an expert in that area. And, if you're comfortable on Instagram, go for it. If you're comfortable on TikTok, go for it. If you're comfortable on Facebook, go for it, right? Some people aren't comfortable with video, right? And at that point, don't do video if you're not comfortable doing video. Do imagery. Like, let's have some fun with this, right? So the other thing that I see too is on social, people are, we talked about kind of posting different things, but they post things that are easy to post, right? They don't think about it from a customer point of view, right? So if I'm scrolling through social and somebody wants to see something from my company, if I'm a real estate agent, most people don't want to just see house after house after house, right? They want to see, what this town has to offer. What are these events that they have to offer, right? Okay, great. What's the best platform to kind of showcase that, right? So if you want to go to the event and shoot some video and kind of show people how much fun that event is, that's great. You can do that, right? And you can post it on whether it's Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever. But really the hardest part is everyone goes out there and takes every single page, they want a profile on every single social media, and then it sits dormant, right? That's great. If you want to own it. But realize, pick one, start with one, focus on one, and then only when you've become an expert and you've got it almost automated where it's very simple to do, then you can go to a second one, right? Don't pick 7 to 10 things, right? We see this all the time, right? We want to do this, and we talk about it's the new year, right? And everyone, I'm going to do this year and this year and this, by the time you get to the end of the year, you might have done one of those 10 things that you wanted to do. And really, that's what I'm saying. Pick one. So at the end of the year, you look back and go, you know what? I at least did the one that I said I was going to go out and do, right? And I became really good at it. That's a much better way than trying to do 10 things at once and not getting any results whatsoever.
You talked about a lot of things. We're going through the 5 illusions, and we're gonna come back to these quite a bit in the podcast. But the ultimate thing for the local businesses, they're listening right now, and if they've listened all the way through this podcast, they're like, "Oh my God, that's going to cost a ton of money." No. And this leads us to basically the 5th illusion, and that's not true.
No, it's not. So our fifth illusion is ignoring the $5 party. What does that even mean, right? So again, I have conversations with people all the time. They're like, I spent $1,300 on this. I spent $1,200 on this. I spent $500 on this. And I ask them, I go, well, how'd it work? I don't know. I guess we had an uptick in some business. What I tell everyone is today, marketing is cheap, right? So we talk about a $5 party, and you mentioned it earlier, CPM, which I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of how we look at all of this. Not yet, right? But we talk about CPM, which is cost per thousand. The M is, I know it's not a T. It's basically Roman numerals and everything else. But cost per thousand is when we look at digital advertising, right? We can get a $5 CPM. So what that means, let me put it in layman's terms. Imagine that you went out and spent $1,300 on a series of billboards, right? They can give you how many people drove by that billboard, during that month or however many months you've done it, right? But you have nothing to track, right? You don't know if they looked at the billboard. You don't know if they actually came in. There's really, you don't know if they went over to your website. There's really no trackability on them. When it comes to, and I'm just going to use Meta as a simple example, which is Facebook and Instagram, right? So you can go out there and you can get something as cheap as $5 CPM, which means you can put your ad in front of 1,000 people for $5. Now think about that, right? So imagine you're sitting in your restaurant, your shop, or, like you mentioned earlier, a plumber, and all of a sudden, I'm going to bring 1,000 people by your shop tomorrow, and they're going to see what you have to offer. Right? That's how cheap it has gotten to do digital at this point, right? So, I have an example here. The $1,300 a month it was a billboard. It was a company that I was talking with, and they were buying billboards, which billboards are great based on what you're looking to do, right? But I asked them, I said, how'd that work? And they're like, we have no idea. And I said, well, let me do some number crunching for you. So I took, literally the $1,300, divided it by 5, right? Because we talk about a $5 CPM, and then I multiplied that by 1,000. Now, I'm not trying to get into math here, but that comes out to 260,000 ads that could have been shown on Meta. And I said, we can track whether or not they clicked on it. We can track, did they fill out a form? Did they, whatever they did, right? We could drive them over to a coupon that they could then bring in store. But it's cheap, right? It is dirt cheap. Now, 260,000 impressions. Think about that, right? So we're based right outside Chicago. In our area for 260,000, if you were to say, all right, well, let's take a 10-mile radius around here. Do you know how many times people would see your ad? You know what the awareness for your company would be just based off of that simple spend? And that's what I'm trying to share with people is that it doesn't have to be a fortune, right? So I get it that $1,300 can be a lot of money to a small business. But over time, if you're just putting out there, even something as simple as $100 a month in marketing, over time, people will continue to see you, and that will generate that awareness that we talked to, right? Like, get out of that circle of influence that you're in, and let's start reaching people that are out there. It's so, and I hear it all the time. Everyone's like, oh, it's digital marketing is so expensive, and I always joke because local, when we start dealing with local companies, they'll come out and they're like, well, do I have to spend $5,000? I'm like, hold on. You don't have to spend, exorbitant amounts of money. Like, literally just go out there and spend a couple $100 over the next month, and let's see where it goes, and we'll build from there. And it's funny because you start looking at frequency, and frequency is just how many times somebody has seen your ad, right? So if you look in the Meta platform in the ads manager, you can actually see how many times people are seeing your ad. So if you were to put $1,300 in there and target one little town, goodness, your frequency is going to be 20 by the time you're done, right? If you're looking at a small little town with, let's call it 10,000 people, it doesn't cost a fortune, right? And it's a misconception. Everyone thinks, oh, I've got to go spend, millions and millions of dollars. And I've done that, right? Like my clients, I've spent millions and millions of dollars over the years. And it's funny, from a local standpoint, it really does not cost you anything to just generate that awareness. And then you don't have to hear it anymore. Oh, I never knew you guys were here, right? They'll see you over and over and over again. And that's really that's the one I always leave people with, is because it is so cheap, so easy to generate that awareness at this point that I just wish everyone would kind of take that initiative and learn a little bit more about it before they just jump to the conclusion that it's too much. He's
Matt Hanson. The marketing guru is how I portray him at our radio stations and our streaming video stations here. We're in Northwest Indiana, in Hammond, Indiana, on the campus of Purdue Northwest. Matt Hanson, of course, is a clinical professor of something or other at PNW here. Close enough. And this is basically a podcast to showcase some of the things that he's learned over the many years. And just in that little segment, there's so many things that kind of hopefully tease you to listen to the next installment that you'll be able to get anywhere that you listen to your podcast. Any closing remarks?
No, I'm just looking forward to the next few podcasts just to really kind of dive into these and really give you a little bit more insight as to why these are illusions. And, learn a little bit more, right? If you can take one nugget out of each one of these and put it to use in your own business, I think it's valuable, right? And, I just love helping small businesses. I think they're the only ones out there that don't have the resources that they need, and somebody needs to do it for them. And that's why I sat down to kind of create this. And I really believe that if they're given the right information, if they can pull out those nuggets and put them to good use, they're going to be successful. And, even in my own consulting business, and when I work with companies, many times I'll sit down with them and I'm interviewing them as well as they're interviewing me. And it really comes down to, what are you looking to do? Are you willing to do these things? And are you going to simplify things? And many people just won't do that. And I realize the writing is on the wall. I've seen it over and over and over again. So really, just to wrap things up, what I want to do with this is literally provide those insights here every time we come back, right? And like I said, over the next 5 podcasts, we're going to dive deep into each one of these illusions. And hopefully you'll come back and hear what we have to say.
Mastering local marketing. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching. If you also happen to be picking that up, we're not really sure where we're going to pick to be our distribution point, but certainly you can get this audio podcast wherever you get your podcast. Thanks a lot, Matt. Thanks to you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
The Mastering Local Marketing podcast helps local small business owners like you understand what it takes to successfully market your business and drive new customers through your doors. We provide actionable insights, interview leading experts and business owners in various industries, as well as provide tips and tricks we've uncovered over the last 25 years in the field. Whether you're starting your business or you've been at it for decades, let us provide you with the education and resources you need to grow your customer base. It's time to start mastering your local marketing.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.